Tonight, hate crimes are seeing a dramatic rise, according to a new report.
Clearly, the numbers are disturbing, but it's a trend that's been happening for the last number of years.
Police reported hate crimes have risen significantly over the past 2 years, according to StatsCan, particularly those targeting religion and sexual orientation. Plus,
city funds should never be used in this manner.
Brampton Mayor Patrick Brown alleging a councillor used tens of thousands of taxpayer dollars as hush money to settle a sexual harassment lawsuit without the mayor's knowledge. Plus,
we're calling for Doug Ford and Minister Jones, number one, to show up, provide a frank assessment of the healthcare system.
Questions are being raised about why the province hasn't stepped up with solutions as the staffing shortage in Ontario hospitals continues to worsen. Good evening, I'm Kelda Yoon. The number of police-reported hate crimes is rising across the country. And that's according to the latest report from Stats Canada. And while race and ethnicity remains the most common motivator, it's crimes targeting religion that saw the biggest jump. Meg Roberts has more.
You've seen the headlines like these ones throughout the pandemic. Hate crimes rising at what some are calling an alarming rate. Today, Statistics Canada saying there's been a 27% increase in police-reported hate crimes in 2021 compared to the year before, and a staggering 72% jump over the last 2 years. Hate crimes targeting sexual orientation rose by 64% in 2021, while religious hate crimes jumped by 67%.
Last year, we tracked 75 cases of violence against Jews in Canada. There have only been 9 in 2020.
Just this year, we've seen numerous incidents of anti-Semitic graffiti across the city, which is being tracked by B'nai B'rith Canada. The organization has been releasing its own report for the past 40 years.
Jews represent 1.25% of the Canadian population, yet they are 56% of all hate crimes targeting religious minorities.
And that's just the cases that are actually reported. Fareed Khan, founder of Canadians United Against Hate, says hate crimes are rarely prosecuted, which might deter some from speaking up. He's calling on Canadians to pressure political leaders into taking more action.
Canadians as a whole, Canadians who find this sort of thing distasteful, to basically come out and say, no, this is not what we want in our Canada, and we will stand against it.
In the meantime, Khan believes the numbers will only continue to rise.
We should be very disturbed about these stats which have come out. We have to brace ourselves because we haven't seen the stats for 2022 yet. We won't see those until next year. And it is my belief that we will see a further increase.
The rate of violent crime is also on the rise, due largely to an increase in sexual assaults. More than 34,000 sexual assaults were reported across the country in 2021. It's the highest level of reports in more than 25 years. Meg Roberts, CBC News, Toronto.
Brampton Mayor Patrick Brown is alleging that a city councillor used taxpayer dollars to settle a sexual harassment case. But Councillor Gurpreet Dillon, who was suspended for 90 days without pay for the 2019 incident, says the mayor is just trying to distract from his own scandals. Dale Manukduk reports.
Brampton Mayor Patrick Brown says that on July 18th, he was approached by a city whistleblower with concerns about hush money payments in relation to a sexual harassment case involving City Councillor Gurpreet Dillon that happened in Turkey.
According to the city CEO, over $60,000 of taxpayer funds were involved.
Brown says the payments were made without his knowledge and that the city signed a non-disclosure agreement, which he says he's seeking the city be released from. This comes after months of infighting on city council. In a statement, Dillon says he's taking legal action against Mayor Brown for abuse of power and defamation. It reads these allegations by Patrick Brown are clearly politically motivated and are his latest attempt to gain control of council so that the multitude of investigations ordered by council into his scandals, misappropriations, and questionable activities will never see the light of day. In 2020, a 268-page Integrity Commissioner's report found that a sexual harassment did take place. It details a graphic incident and includes a transcript of an audio recording in which the complainant says no 74 times. Uniza Sheikh was the Integrity Commissioner at the time, but was terminated earlier this year. She's filing a wrongful dismissal suit against Brampton City Council.
She undertook the role of just reviewing all the evidence And as an objective, trained investigator, she ensured that procedural fairness was followed and that everyone had a chance to put their submissions forward.
In his press conference, Brown noted the need for transparency in light of the ongoing Hockey Canada scandal. Catherine Marshall is also a partner at Levitt Chic Employment Law with a focus on sexual harassment cases and says they represent a systemic problem.
The notion that people who are powerful and are in positions of power can potentially make problems like this go away by paying money that isn't theirs. And that's something I think the public has a big problem with, and as a society we need to address.
Dale Manukduk, CBC News, Brampton.
We're learning tonight that the intensive care units at a Toronto hospital are at total capacity, prompting what's called a critical care bed alert. A representative from University Health Network says 3 of the ICUs at Toronto General Hospital are at their total bed capacity and/or have limited human resources to safely keep all beds open and in operation. UHN blames the situation on a staffing shortage. It says it will work collaboratively with Criticall, a provincially run system which facilitates patient transfers to ensure patients get the most appropriate care. The staffing shortages at hospitals across Ontario continues to be a major problem, and a solution is desperately needed. So for many, that begs the question, where is the provincial government? Ali Chiasson takes a look.
It's summer and hospitals are stretched thin. We're heading into fall and winter, which are already challenging seasons for viruses such as influenza and, of course, COVID.
There are going to be additional pressures on the healthcare system then. And it's not like we're going to magically have tens and tens of thousands of healthcare providers suddenly back on the job before then.
It's becoming clear this is not a one-solution issue.
It's not just nurses, although nurses are a major component here. It's the other allied healthcare professionals, physicians as well. And this is significantly impacting the delivery of health care.
According to the Ontario Nurses Association, about 25 different hospitals in Ontario were forced to scale back sections of their facilities on the long weekend due to staff shortages.
We're calling for Doug Ford and Minister Jones, number one, to show up, provide a frank assessment of the healthcare system.
The Ontario Liberal Party held a press conference today pointing out the current government's absence on the issue, aside from providing statements about how they've hired 10,500 healthcare workers since the beginning of the pandemic.
And let's talk about all of the solutions at our disposal.
The Office of Health Minister Sylvia Jones has declined another one of our requests for an interview today. So we'll continue to ask frontline healthcare workers how they see it.
I think short term, the first thing I would say as a family physician and a primary care provider, I would just remind people out there that if they have a health problem, please contact us first.
So patients triaging themselves before crowding the emergency rooms with non-emergencies.
As a leader, I'll try my best to engage in conversations, with my hospital, with my family practice to try to, create a situation where we're providing the best care with our patients. And I just hope that over time, this feedback is sort of, taken into account and we can see some improvements, because at the end of the day, we just want to provide the best care possible for our patients and our communities. And when the system is under such strain, it can become very challenging.
Ali Chiasson, CBC News, Toronto.
We're learning more about a shooting in Ajax that left 6 people injured early Monday morning. Durham police say an argument outside a restaurant led to the shooting.
This was a customer appreciation dinner when there was some sort of an altercation that took place verbally between the suspect and several of the patrons. That suspect fled, went a couple hours and then returned when he opened fire at the patrons in the restaurant.
It happened at 1:20 a.m. at the rear of Dam Foods. 3 men and 3 women were hurt. 2 of the victims suffered life-threatening injuries, but police say all 6 victims are now in stable condition. Officers are looking for a man who fled in a dark-colored 4-door vehicle. Anyone with information is asked to contact police. Police in York Region say a man has been charged after 18 car tires were slashed in the parking lot at Canada's Wonderland on Sunday night. Now, these images were posted to Twitter by someone who says their car was one of them. 29-year-old Logan Bigelow is charged with possession of a weapon and unauthorized possession of a prohibited or restricted weapon. He's also facing 18 counts of mischief under $5,000. Dahlia Ashby joins us now with a first look at the forecast. And Dahlia, a pretty nice day today before things really start heating up.
That's right, Kelda. First day after the long weekend, it was beautiful. There was a nice breeze. We had a little bit of heat, but tomorrow things are going to ramp up. We're going to have extreme humidity and some scattered showers. And then later, well, conditions might start to dry up. Daytime highs in Toronto today, 26 degrees. Windsor, 27. The cool spot in the region, London, 24 degrees. But we are expecting that rain that we were talking about earlier. So tomorrow morning at 8 a.m., you see those clouds starting to come through and that precipitation making its way through, coming from southeastern Ontario. And that will carry through until Thursday. Thursday in the morning, there's some cloud coverage, as you can see, and that precipitation also making its way out by Thursday afternoon. By the evening, things will start to cool down and the clouds will start to go away. So a bit foggy on Thursday. Tonight, temperatures will drop to 15 degrees, some light winds. But as we head into tomorrow afternoon, that's when the heat ramps up and that's when the humidity starts to kick in. So make sure you stay hydrated. We'll have more on that later. Kelda?
Thanks so much, Dahlia. It was trade deadline day in the MLB, and there was plenty of speculation over the possibility of the Blue Jays making some moves to bolster their lineup for the playoffs. Just after the 6 p.m. deadline, the Jays announced they acquired two-time All-Star Whit Merrifield from the Kansas City Royals. And earlier in the day, the team made moves to solidify their bullpen. Greg Ross has more on that.
The Jays picking up a couple of relief pitchers to help out a bullpen that has been subpar at best this season, and they get those pitchers via a trade with the Miami Marlins. The Jays acquire right-handed pitchers Anthony Bass and Zach Pop, as well as a player to be named later. In exchange, Toronto sends prospect Jordan Groshans to the Marlins. Now, the biggest piece of this deal for the Blue Jays undoubtedly is Bass. He's having a very good year with an ERA of just 1.41 and 44 plus innings of work this season out of that Marlins bullpen. He also has 45 strikeouts. And I think the other thing the Blue Jays like about Bass is that he's not just a rent-a-player for this season. The 34-year-old has 1 year left on his deal as a team option for next season, and it would only cost the Blue Jays $3 million. Now, you may remember that Bass was a member of the Blue Jays just a couple of seasons ago, so they're very familiar with his work. Now, the other player that the Blue Jays pick up in this deal is a reliever who is from the GTA, and I'm talking about Zach Pop from Brampton. He's just 25 years old. He has 4 years left on his current contract, so he could be around for a while. They also send 22-year-old infielder Jordan Groshans, who is considered one of the top prospects in the Blue Jays organization. He's now headed to the Miami Marlins. Jays closer Jordan Romano had this to say about Bass returning to the Blue Jays.
Great guy, unbelievable pitcher, put up great numbers with us, and he's having another great season. So it's nice to have him back, veteran guys, pitched in all situations, kind of knows how to handle business. So it's nice to have a guy like that.
Definitely a familiar face, and we're, happy to have him back. And then with Zach, just ground ball machine, throws hard, and I think just is a cool dynamic to add to our bullpen. So excited about both of them.
So a couple of new players for the Blue Jays, but I guess the big question is, did they do enough to make themselves World Series contenders, especially when you consider just how good the New York Yankees are right now? They did make a bunch of moves to bolster their lineup at this trade deadline, and they're already running away with the American League East. They are going to be a very difficult team to beat. Bass and Pop, they're expected to join the Blue Jays on Thursday when they open up a series in.
Welcome back. Wheelchair users say they want to be allowed to remain seated in their mobility devices when they fly on airplanes. Now, air safety regulations currently prohibit passengers from sitting in their own wheelchairs. Ryan Patrick Jones has the story of a Kitchener man who is calling on airlines and federal regulators to change that.
Frustration, shock, and anger. That's how James Glasbergen, a wheelchair user, describes these moments after he was dropped to the floor of an airplane earlier this year.
They dropped me on the floor. It was like a 2 or 3 foot drop, and all of a sudden my bottom hit the floor with a big thud.
It took 3 minutes for multiple staff and another passenger to get Glasbergen in a seat upright. Federal regulations require wheelchair users to transfer into airplane seats, and wheelchairs must be stowed away with luggage. Melissa Graham says she's gotten off multiple flights to find her wheelchair damaged.
It's incredibly frustrating It makes flying in general very stressful.
Both say negative and common experiences like these could be avoided if passengers could sit in their wheelchairs when flying.
If they can figure out how to fly a helicopter on Mars, they can figure out how to get wheelchair users sitting in their wheelchairs safely on airplanes.
I just started doing research.
This Texas-based advocate proposes securement systems like those used in vans and buses to secure wheelchairs in the passenger cabin. Options include seatbelt-like straps or a bolt locking system. She says initial crash tests suggest they can meet the same safety standards as airplane seats.
What the FAA has outlined for us as what would be safe has passed.
Canada's air travel regulator says any system that would allow passengers to remain in wheelchairs while flying would first need approval from the U.S. Federal Aviation Authority. The U.S. Transportation Department recently promised it's working on it. For Glasbergen, that day can't come soon enough.
It's not something that's going to take weeks or days because, some obviously cabin reconfiguration might have to be done. And I understand all that, but I guess I just want to see progress.
Ryan Patrick Jones, CBC News, Toronto.
A 12-year-old boy from Barrie is helping to fill backpacks with supplies to send to Ukrainian refugees living in Poland. After hearing about Oscar Oliver's mission, Indigo jumped in to help, offering him a $75,000 shopping spree.
I think it'll make a difference by helping them stay who they are, and how to help them by not being so sad, even though it's really upsetting to be living in a different place when you just want to go back home and do everything there.
Oscar launched his Buy a Backpack campaign earlier this year, asking for donations of $50. In April, he traveled to Poland to deliver more than 400 backpacks to Ukrainian children who escaped the war. Now he's looking at a new goal of 1,000 backpacks to fill with toiletries, educational supplies, and toys.
It doesn't matter how small an effort you make, it can make a difference. And I think the voice of young people is greater than the voice of an adult. And that's what I think the message is. Go out there and give a message, have a passion, whatever that passion is, and voice that passion, and people will listen.
Oscar and his family will be going back to Poland at the end of August to deliver the supplies in person. You're looking at a live shot of the Toronto skyline, mostly clear this evening with some fog patches developing overnight as we make way for a hot and sticky day. Currently, though, just 21 degrees in Toronto. All right, let's go back to Dahlia now with a look at your long-range forecast. And Dahlia, we're really going to start feeling that humidity tomorrow.
That's right, Kelda. We were spoiled by Mother Nature over the long weekend. We came back on our way to work and the heat is kicking in, but so are those damp conditions and the humidity. As we head into today, well, it was really humid outside today, but there was a nice breeze. 26 degrees was the daytime high in Toronto, Windsor 27. The cool spot was London at 24 degrees, Ottawa 25. Now there is some rain that is expected as we head into tomorrow morning. The cloud coverage is starting to peek through, and we see that precipitation making its way from the eastern part of the region. And Thursday morning, well, that will carry through, but we're seeing a lot of that fog and chance of rain as well. By the evening, it will start to cool down, and the fog and precipitation will make its way out, and that will be going towards Ottawa. Temperatures will drop this evening to 15 degrees by tomorrow. That heat and humidity that we were talking about, that's going to kick in, bringing temperatures up to 42 degrees. Tonight, enjoy the cool weather while it lasts. Toronto, it's going to be 15 degrees. Hamilton, 14, a little bit on the cooler side in Hamilton. St. Catharines, a little bit more on the warmer side, 16 degrees, and Oshawa, 13. So a little bit of a break before we head into those wet and damp, hot, muggy conditions tomorrow. The air quality will change as well tomorrow. So if you use an inhaler or anything like that, have it on you. 31 degrees for the daytime high, but it will feel more like 42 with that extreme heat. So a muggy day. Thursday, 27 degrees with that humidity that will continue as well. It will feel like 38 degrees, and there's a risk of a thunderstorm and 70% chance of rain. Friday, we get a bit of a break, scattered showers throughout the day. Saturday, the dry conditions continue, but there is a risk of a thunderstorm. And Sunday, we're back to those damp conditions. Keep an umbrella on you for the rest of the week because you're probably going to need it. Kelda?
Thanks for that, Dahlia. After a 2-year hiatus, Shakespeare in the Park is returning to High Park's outdoor theater. This year's production, the comedy As You Like It. It features a whimsical set, costumes, and props, all made by Toronto-based company Shadowland Theatre. The show's opening night is this Thursday. We got a sneak peek.
I think that this venue and this particular place invites us as audiences to engage with these plays in ways that we might not normally get to engage with them elsewhere.
Turn around.
My hope is that people are able to come and recognize that the offering on hand here is something that might be a little bit different from what they're used to, but at the same time, it's so full of whimsy, it's so full of fun. We're totally embracing the place that we're in and not pretending that we're not where we are.
It's a chance for people to escape the challenges of their day-to-day city life and run away to the forest as well and watch this beautiful show. As You Like It is a play by William Shakespeare. It's a play that is about a number of people who feel threatened. Their lives are threatened while they live in the city, and they end up running off to the woods, to the Forest of Arden, which is an analog for Eden. And then they discover love and the freedom that the forest gives them. It's not a hat. This is an extension of the actor's head. Shadowland Theatre are a fantastic theatre company, and they've always worked with recycled material and with local material. And it's very bright, colorful, cartoony, playful, very audience-oriented, very public spectacle-oriented. So I was very excited when they agreed to do the set, costumes, and props for the show. These are topiaries, which are a couple of the characters wear.
It's so magical, and it's also not just any performance. It's being outside. It's being able to do it in a really big way because of the fact that we get to be outside on this stage, and it seems like the right way to do it. We have plants on the forest that are make-believe, but then we have real ones to look at and really smell. It's amazing. The beauty of this particular venue, this particular really special theater, is that it's pay what you can. It's in the park, which means there's no income barrier for people coming. You can bring food, you can bring your families, and you could sit in the open air and watch the show. It's really built for all audiences, all ages, all people.
And that is our show for you tonight. Thank you so much for watching. Dwight Drummond has your next local newscast tomorrow at 6. I will see you back here tomorrow night at 11. Have a great night, everyone.